This is Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. You can text us 53106. We're streaming the conversation as well. Listen on News Talk. Watch us on the Off the Ball digital and social channels for Periscope and Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. Now, this week's Saturday panel is in partnership with Unpussed. The Unpussed Irish Women in Sports stamps are championing Ireland's sporting heroes on the International Women's Day, which is this Tuesday. So we're delighted to be able to be joined by Eimear Lambe, Chloe Watkins and Cora Staunton. Eimear, Chloe and Cora, how are you all doing?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good, all good here.
You're in Australia, Cora.
I am, sure, yeah, in Sydney. What is it here, 12:30 at night, yeah. So, yeah, coming into Sunday morning shortly. So, yeah, nice and late. But I'm a night owl anyway, so that doesn't matter.
So Cora Staunton, 4 All-Ireland titles, 11 All-Stars. Now you're playing with the Greater Western Sydney Giants. And you lost to Richmond today. I don't want to kind of bring that up as the first thing, but you're still playing. You're playing every single week there.
Yeah, so still playing. Yeah, had a close enough defeat today. Lost by just a goal and a bit. Yeah, so tough game. Body's a bit sore now, all right. But it's been a tough enough season, all right, surely for us. But we've one game left next week, so looking to finish on a high. We play Geelong down in Geelong, so yeah, looking to finish on a high. And
you're dealing with serious floods down there, I believe, Cora.
Yeah, we've been lucky enough. It hasn't directly hit here in the city of Sydney, but yeah, on the outskirts certainly. Yeah, there's been a lot of devastation, and in northern Queensland as well. There's been a lot, but yeah, we've had a lot of rain surely in the last kind of 10 days. But things are looking up. Today was probably the best day. We had very little rain today, so yeah, hopefully that will improve. But yeah, there has been a lot of devastation, but it hasn't fell really into the city.
A frustrating season, Cora. Is it still a challenge when it's like that mentally, with results not going certainly your way, or are you still loving it down there?
Yeah, it's obviously a challenge for both the team and individual. I suppose from an individual point of view, all you can do is, keep trying and, set yourself different targets at the start of the season as a forward. So, yeah, I've been lucky enough. I'm still kicking goals and doing that. So from that point of view, I'd be happy enough with my form. But yeah, it's been a challenge. But that's the nature of the game. The biggest challenge, I suppose, is all the games come very quick and fast. I think this is our 4th game, maybe in about 30. I think it's 12 or 13 days. So yeah, for the body to hold up. Because it's a very obviously physical game, the body does be sore for a couple of days afterwards. So to try and hold it up for the condensed nature of the game, it's tough. But yeah, I'm still enjoying it, and the performances are going all right. So from an individual point of view, collectively, as the team, hasn't gone great this year. But you'll have bumps like that. So just hopefully get a win in the final game.
We have a fantastic competition coming your way, folks, as well. So you stay tuned with Thanks to Unpussed. Get your stamps for this women's booklet to celebrate International Women's Day at your local post office or on unpussed.com. So, Eimear, just to refresh the listeners' memory, you won bronze with the Irish rowers in Tokyo last year. You're back in the boat, are you, at the moment? You believe you're down in Cork? Are you getting ready for Paris yet?
I'm actually up in Dublin, but yeah, no, I am back in the boat. I'm training away with Afric up here for this year, and then next year will be all guns blazing back into Cork, full-time training again, going to Paris. What's
a normal day like for you at the moment?
So, a bit different to the last couple of years. So at the moment, I'm working on a graduate program at the moment, kind of trying to be a bit more in the real world, I suppose, and kind of get a bit of a feel to life outside of full-time sport. But I'm getting up early and training before work, then working 9 to 5, and then training again in the evening with Afric, either on the water in the gym.
And how have you found the adjustment since you took home a medal for Ireland at the Olympic Games? We haven't had that many medals in our history, and it was an incredible achievement.
I know it's definitely been a bit of an adjustment. I don't think it's really hit home, kind of the magnitude of it, especially coming back. Yeah, it's just been incredible. I think coming out, like I said, back into the real world and trying to work as well on top of it, definitely a bit of an adjustment change, kind of having to use my brain again, working. But it's been good. It's been really incredible.
Where's the medal?
My mum has it. She does not trust me with it. Could you imagine? She has it up in the living room, guarded, I'd say, about 24/7. And anytime any neighbour comes in, like for anything, just like a cup of tea, she has it out.
Brilliant.
So I think the whole road is sick of it at this point.
No, keep doing it. Chloe Watkins, did you get a silver medal for the World Cup?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just in the drawer though, so it's nowhere.
You don't take it out to look at it, no?
Yeah, no, it's probably lost its shine a bit now.
So you won that silver medal, Chloe, with the Irish hockey team in 2018. It was an incredible journey, and you got a World Cup again this year. Will that maybe help to kind of ease the disappointment of what happened in Tokyo?
Yeah, I mean, like qualifying for major tournaments is huge, and it's what we really wanted to maintain, I suppose, when we qualified for London in 2018, and then backing it up and getting to the Olympics. You know, we knew qualifying for another World Cup back to back would be huge, and really important for the program. So it was a huge boost when we did it, and you know, it's a big summer ahead. There's also then a European qualifier in August, so it's quite a packed calendar. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
Just want to go through this before we speak about your own careers. So the theme around International Women's Day on Tuesday is gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow. How as a nation is Ireland doing, folks, when it comes to supporting women's sport? We had the 20 by 20 campaign. We saw last year that the primary achievements in Irish sport were by women. So Rachel Blackmore, Kelly Harrington, Leona Maguire, the Meath footballers. It seems we're moving away from an era, Cora Staunton, where Irish soccer players change in toilets, or ladies Gaelic football players lack basic expenses, or rugby players would have to write to the government only recently. How are we doing as a nation when it comes to the equality piece around women in sport, in your view?
Yeah, I think things are certainly getting better, but I don't think we can ever rest on our laurels and think, you know, the work is done. You know, I only can speak from my point of view, but yeah, certainly I think, like from a ladies football point of view, and the whole equality issue around, you know, being treated as much as well as the men's GAA footballers are. I know there's a huge push on at the moment and had been over the last number of months, but I think that's only starting now, and I think that's going to have to be pushed and pushed more. You know, we're always going to be fighting for, you know, equality, but I do think that things are getting better, but I don't think ever we can rest on our laurels. There's a lot of things that can get better and need to get better, and I suppose you'd hope that one day we the best way we'll know that things have got better when we're not talking about the difference between men and women's sport, no matter what the sport is. So yeah, from a GAA point of view, it's finally getting there. You know, but the thing is, I remember having conversations, whether it's in the media or just general people, about this equality in ladies football probably 10 years ago, and it's only moved very slowly in that 10 years, and I've said it before, we cannot wait for another 10 years to move that slowly as well. We need it now, and I think, as he said, the achievement of women's sports people in 2021, you know, with all the people that you mentioned, Rachel Blackmore, Kelly Harrington, Leona Maguire, we could go on and name them, you know, has been massive, and you know, I think obviously at times have been taken over the men's sports people, but for me, equality will be a time where we don't differentiate between men and women, whether that's in the back pages of the newspaper, on TV. It's just normal that whatever it is that's been covered in the newspapers and on the television, it's not you know, not these historic moments that we're seeing now, that the, you know, live women's national league or live boxing on women's boxing on TV. It just becomes the norm. I still think we're probably a little bit away from that, but I think things like the 2020 campaign and the push that's on now, I think we need to keep pushing and pushing, and the day that it just becomes norm that we speak about women's sport like we do about men's sport, I suppose that's when everything will be equal.
Eimear Lambe, your experience as a rower, an Olympian, what improvements have been made and what work still needs to be done in your view?
I think as a rower, I think I kind of come from a bit of a privileged position that there isn't as big a discrepancy between women and men's rowing. And I think a lot of that comes down to probably it not being as big a spectator sport as it is with football, rugby, and GAA as well. So I think where I'm at, I think I'm just quite lucky for where we are. But seeing Ireland as a whole and the whole sports front, there is, yeah, definitely a big step to go and a lot of room for improvement. And exactly just like where I was saying, you know, once people stop referring to it as, you know, football is always associated as men's, and then it's women's football. Whereas when it's finally a conversation, when people are talking about sport and football can mean either men's or women's, it isn't women's football, it's just football. I think that will make a big difference. That's kind of, I think, a serious marker as to when it is they're both considered on equal merit. But that said, like, this has been a big year for women's sports. It's been such a breakthrough, and it's great to see that women are finally starting to get a bit more coverage. So we are getting there slowly but surely, but yeah, there's definitely still a long way to go.
Chloe, what's your experience of this?
Yeah, probably similar to Eimear, that within hockey we don't have inequality from the men's and women's side of things. But having said that, our struggle is probably with the other sports, the inequality there, I suppose. But it's I think for me, like, you know, we had great success in 2018, and there certainly was some changes you could see happening, and exposure and you know, sponsors getting on board. And I think, you know, that's really the crux of it. It's the funding and the sponsorship that you can drive into the women's game, and you can only do that through showing it on TV or through, you know, exposure and generating interest and that kind of thing. So I think there's still a bit to go there. The more you see it on TV, covered in the media and all that, it hugely helps. But it shouldn't have to be, you know, somebody achieving out of the norm. It should just be a regular day-to-day thing, like the men's game. You know, you kind of feel sometimes with the women, you have to do something extraordinary to get put in the spotlight, I suppose. But hopefully you get to a point where, you know, that coverage and that opportunity to be seen is just equal.
Yeah, for example, the World Cup final, everybody was a bandwagoner. I was a bandwagoner.
That's totally fine. There's no problem. We love a bandwagon. And it's, you know, it's not, you can't force people to watch every sport. Everyone has certain interests and that kind of thing. But I think, you know, it's just having it out there and having the opportunity to watch it if you want to watch it, and showing, you know, even for the younger generation and girls out there, that there's a ton of sports and there's a lot on and there's a lot to, you know, to try and that kind of thing. And I think it'll all help.
I have stamps from the Ryder Cup from 2006, and I'm looking forward to buying these stamps. I think it's an excellent initiative with Sonia Sullivan and Katie Taylor and Rachel Blackmore on them, and the hockey team, Chloe. When you were growing up, who was your female sporting idol?
You know, again, there weren't that many on TV that you were watching. The one I do remember watching is Sonia, certainly winning her silver, and that was the first time, I think, the only time I can remember watching a female Irish athlete on the TV. There wasn't any women's football, there wasn't any of that. I love football, but there was none of that growing up. So yeah, Sonia was certainly one for me, and even to this day, it's surreal seeing the hockey team on a stamp and seeing one with Sonia above them. It's just it's an incredible thing.
She had some career, didn't she, Chloe? Like, it was Barcelona, the disappointment of Atlanta, the question marks over the Chinese athletes as well, and then finally in the Olympics when she was in her 30s to win silver. And it was, once again, it's hard to win these medals and hard to be at the top of your sport for so long, and we haven't had a history of many athletes, and she was really, like, you have to say, one of our greatest ever.
I think so, absolutely. And it's just that it's the competitor that she was, and just her drive and her ambition to keep going, even though she had some setbacks. And you just, you know, you could see her achieve her goals, and she really set her mind to it. And it was inspiring. Like, you couldn't help but get goosebumps when you were watching her run and compete, because she was just such a competitor. And putting the Irish jersey on the world stage was, you know, something that hadn't really been done before either.
Cora, was there anybody you looked up to when you were growing up playing Gaelic football?
Yeah, I suppose from a Gaelic football point of view, unfortunately, all my role models growing up were men. But yeah, again, like Chloe, Sonia was certainly my female role model growing up. Yeah, as I said, visibility is everything. And I suppose, she was really the only woman sports person that was on TV and that we could see. I didn't really know any ladies Gaelic footballers because it wasn't on TV, bar the ones that I would have went into, in schools football and then into Mayo. So yeah, certainly for me, Sonia was, and as Chloe has articulated very well, it's, it was her drive and her ambition and her story really, of really getting there through a lot of adversity. And, I've been lucky enough when I came to Australia for my first season over here, Sonia came to one of my games, and that was the first time I ever met her. And she came into our dressing room afterwards and spoke to the whole team. And ever since then, I've had a connection with Sonia over here, and we'd regularly text each other. So for me, even now, all the years ago that I looked up to her, I still look up to her now, and to see how driven she is even now. And she's not competing in that, but she's an amazing woman, and just even to talk to her and get her insight on a number of different things. It's mad how things turn around. Your idol, you now are in contact with her, and she gives you lots of nuggets of information. And she to me was one I just always looked up to. And I was never into athletics, and certainly long distance running was never going to be my forte. But I think it was visibility, and that's where I suppose things have changed. Now there's so much visibility on whether it's in TV or on radio, or there's female sports people all over whether TV, radio, newspaper, we see them all the time. And like you spoke about being a bandwagon for the hockey, I think we all were, but that's because we did choice. It was on TV, and I think that's the biggest thing that has changed. There's now choice of many different women's sport, whether there's hockey, rugby, soccer, boxing, whatever it might be, that young boys and girls can now decide to watch. And I think that's really important that continues to grow and go, and I'm sure it will.
What did you say in the dressing room, Cora?
Where we actually played that day, it was in Melbourne at the Holden Centre, and Sonia had actually ran there and had won an event around. There's a running track around the oval, and she spoke about her first time there. And how she remembers she was running a race there, and she always remembers as she was running a race there was an Irish flag. There's a couple of Irish people obviously that were in Melbourne back then, obviously came to watch her, and she that day as well brought an Irish flag to the game and stood there with a couple of her friends. We played Collingwood. It was my actually first win for the Giants, and it wasn't a great day for me. I broke my nose in that game. So she's seen all the action. But she just came in and spoke about how that was basically being away from home and being so far away in Australia that there's always a bit of Irishness here. And she just spoke about like her drive and determination and wanting to achieve because that Irish flag was there. So it's remarkable. She's been up in Sydney a couple of times. Her daughters ran up here, and she's come to the club and looked around, and we're based in Sydney Olympic Park. So I've met her a few times, and she texts me and stuff before matches. So she's, as I said, I'm still standing there, I'm starstruck and in awe at her, and trying to act a bit normal when I'm there. But she's an amazing, she's an amazing lady, and what she's still doing, she's involved in coaching, and her own daughter has been really successful. So, what she's done for females, for the last, for generations now, has been amazing, and she's still inspiring us.
And visibility and awareness, Eimear, as Chloe and Cora have said there, is it sounds so simple, but it is really key, isn't it? And like I would say that more people are interested in rowing now, given what you did last summer and what the O'Donovans have done and what Fintan McCarthy's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even growing up myself, there wasn't really that much visibility. Like the first women to qualify for the Olympics was Sunita for London in 2012 on the Irish team for rowing. So there weren't really that many Irish women row models growing up. And I was lucky enough, though, that I had one under my own roof, my sister.
Claire, yes.
Claire, my sister Claire. So she qualified for the Olympics for Rio and was the first Irish women's lightweight crew to make a final in the Olympics. And I think that's what made a huge difference just to my career by itself, having someone under the same roof as me that I could actually see what it took to become an Olympian. Because I think it's so easy. You see these people obviously on the TV and you're like, wow, these are incredible people, which obviously they are. And you don't see how much it took for them to get there. A lot of it, you kind of assume then that they had this like natural born ability, and this is what they were always going to do, and there weren't any bumps along the way. But I think having then my sister there in the house with me, I could see exactly what it took to be an Olympian, and just all the hardships and stuff that goes along with it, and the resilience that you need. I think obviously now at rowing's finally coming to the forefront as an Irish sport, that you can actually see in the clubs now that there's such a big uptake. Like the clubs are almost overwhelmed with girls and boys as well, starting at a really young age, trying to get involved, just because coming in being like, oh, I want to be like the O'Donovans, I want to be like the girls four, you know, they want to come in and they want to see if they can have their hand to what they've done. And I think that's it, like just having that visibility, knowing that sport is there. I think so many people always thought rowing was the exact same as canoeing as well. So even just now people know what rowing is or what it entails. It's made such a difference and really increased the participation, which is incredible to see.
We're speaking to Eimear Lambe, Chloe Watkins and Cora Staunton on the Saturday panel. And ahead of International Women's Day on Tuesday, On Post have issued a buckle of stamps to commemorate the success of Irish women in sport. And right now is competition time, a fantastic prize for a chance to win a €1,000 one for all voucher with thanks to On Post, as well as a €100 Irish Women in Sport stamp booklet. Just tell us who this mystery voice is.
Didn't lose me focus or me control. The rest is history.
Who is the voice? Text your answer now and your name to 53106 at a cost of 30 cents, and we'll select the lucky prize winner at the end of the show. So we're back with Off the Ball Saturday and the Saturday panel on News Talk after the news with Eimear Lambe, Chloe Watkins and Cora Staunton. Don't go away. Welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5 o'clock. It's Leicester City 1, Leeds United 0, by the way, in the Premier League, with Harvey Barnes on the mark at the King Power Stadium. So this week's Saturday panel is in partnership with On Post. The On Post Irish Women in Sport stamps are championing Ireland's sporting heroes on the International Women's Day, which is Tuesday. Get your stamps at your local post office or on post.com. So on this theme of celebrating Irish women in sport, we're chatting to the Ireland bronze medalist at the Olympic Games in rowing, Eimear Lambe, Hockey World Cup silver medal winner Chloe Watkins, and the 4-time All-Ireland champion with Mayo, 11-time All-Star and current Aussie rules player Cora Staunton. You can listen to us in News Talk, and if you want to watch us on the digital and social channels, you can do so on Periscope. For Twitter, at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook and on the OTB Sports app. You can also text us any questions to the folks on 53106. You're all in teams, folks. Eimear, you play with or I would say, I suppose, more you row with a 4-person team. The psychology of that must be different to an individual boat. So what have you learned in terms of being a team, in terms of the do's and don'ts?
I think, yeah, definitely the psychology is very different than being an individual. I think a big thing that I learned was definitely communication and the importance of that. You know, in the boat, it's so intense when you're trained, like we're rowing, it's 6 hours, 8 hours a day, you're exhausted and you're with each other that entire time. And especially with COVID, like that was completely heightened because we couldn't be leaving our bubbles or anything like that, with the risk of bringing that COVID back in. So it was very intense 2 years there training together. And I think what really came out of that was the importance of being able to communicate. So like when you're having an off day, we were really good of kind of noticing that and saying it out loud, being like, look, sorry if I'm coming across as aggressive or grumpy or tired, I'm just not feeling it today. And I think all of us knew then when to step back or when to kind of talk someone through it. I think that was huge. And also we kind of had a thing then, if anyone ever did get a bit snappy or there was a bit of a fight going on, that we always knew would leave it on the water, is kind of what we'd say. So anything that happened on the water would stay on the water.
Happens in Vegas.
Literally that. So then as soon as we come back off the water, it's forgotten about and no grudges are held, which I think is huge, because if you hold on to anything like that, like obviously there's going to be tiffs and disagreements and difference of opinion, especially with sport and especially in training. And I think having that respect for each other and respecting each other's opinion, and if you have a disagreement, know when to be able to just walk away from it, shake it off, and know it's not personal. I think that was a big factor with our success anyway.
I think setting those boundaries and ground rules is important in advance before it festers out of control. Cora, you were playing now for a professional team. How does it differ from an amateur team?
Yeah, it probably doesn't differ a huge amount. I suppose the biggest thing is that you don't have to work, and you get to spend all your time trying to make yourself better. You know, obviously when I was playing GA at home, you're trying to obviously work 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever it might be, or maybe trying to fit a gym session in the morning and do a pitch session in the evening. So yeah, I just found it's the time that your days are so long, you know, and to have the energy to do that all the time. You know, you're obviously representing your county and then your club, and I'm the type of person that doesn't really like to miss any training. So yeah, it's the difference here is that you have time to recover and time to hone your craft or whatever it might be. So that's probably the different thing. There's no major you know, differences in how hard we train or anything. You train as hard as you do for GA, for AFL, but it's just the time that I have to recover and get ready for the next match or the next training session. And as well as that, the resources that we have on hand here is so much different to Gaelic football. When I played Gaelic football, I know it's changing all the time, but you know, everything is in one facility, and you know, we have, you know, everything from the strength and conditioning coaches, a number of them, to physios, to psychologists, to doctors. Everything is just in the one place, and everything is on hand. And you know, you go into your facility and everything is there. You don't have to, you know, be traveling to different training pitches or, you know, to go to different gyms and stuff. So that's the biggest thing. It's the time, the recovery that you have to recover and to make yourself better, and also the resources, both in facility wise and people on ground. It's there. If you don't get better as a professional sports person, it's all there for you to maximise yourself. And yeah, I suppose that's the biggest difference.
Absolutely. And Chloe, I was listening to Eimear there, and conflict resolution, I'd say, is something that will come quite easily if you're having to be in the boat all the time. Being in a hockey team, how does that equip you for what's in the real world or outside the sporting world?
I think, yeah, it's just working in teams. You know, you go into business and it's working in teams, and it's working effectively, you know, in a high performance environment. And you know, you learn so much that's so transferable into that world. It's just simply, I know Eimear touched on communication and all that, but it really is knowing how to do it effectively, and being receptive to feedback, being able to sort of critique yourself and self-review, that kind of thing. Because it's, you know, within a team you have responsibility to do your role, and you know, if you don't do your role, you're going to be dragging the team down, and you have to rely on everybody doing their role. So there's trust there as well that you have to build with whoever you're in a team with, because your success relies on them. You know, if you're dragging your heels, you're going to be dragging the rest of the team down. So it's all that kind of stuff that once you go into business and, you know, into a high performance environment, it's all the same. It doesn't matter what sport or what business it is. It's all that kind of stuff.
And you've had the learning since you were 18 when you made your first appearance for Ireland to making your 200th against the Netherlands in that final. Yeah,
it's been 12 odd years now that I played for Ireland. So I've certainly learned a lot. Like, I think back to the beginning of my career and to now, it's funny. It does just evolve, and you become more established and you become more confident in your role, I suppose, as well. And you know your stuff a bit more, which gives you possibly a bit more of you know, you feel like you can pipe up a bit more and put give your input. But then I'm now sort of in a junior role in work, and it's back down at the bottom of the food chain, and you kind of have to find yourself again. It's kind of stepping out of your comfort zone and being sort of dealing with different adversity and challenges. And I notice it now, because I remember back when I started playing for Ireland, it's that kind of feeling, finding your feet and all, you know, your surroundings.
What are you doing day to day?
I'm an accountant.
Oh, very good. And Cora, you went as well, a bit like Chloe there, as the young person in the team, from a 17-year-old All-Ireland winner to being then you know, a veteran in the Mayo team and now a professional. Like, what did you learn in terms of leadership techniques along the way?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, when you're younger, I think you play a lot more freer, and you probably don't think a lot about leadership and things like that. You just go out and enjoy and be yourself. There's probably not as much pressure on you. I think that probably pressure mounts as you get older, and more is expected of you. And certainly, I suppose the biggest difference for me was, when I came down under and played AFL, I was obviously coming off a career with Mayo that was, quite long, and, I was in my comfort zone in some ways that, I hadn't been in a new changing room for a long time. And, I found that very challenging when I came to Australia. I went from, being, at the top of my game at home to now being right back down at the bottom of the ladder in a new sport, and a lot of people wondering who you are and why you were there. So, yeah, I found that challenging. I had to, prove myself all right from the start when I come over here, going from, as I said, being at the top of my game at home now to being number 30. And I found I had to, the only way you can do that is prove yourself, and that's done through hard work on and off the field. And on the field is just proving yourself through training and in games and whatever it might be, and off the field it's developing relationships with the group and getting to know them. And I suppose I've done that over the years now here. They're very big on leadership here in Australia, and they have their leadership groups is a huge thing in all AFL clubs, both men and women. So I suppose I'll be involved in our leadership group here for the last 3 years. And I suppose I've taken on really a role of mentoring our younger girls, girls that have, 18, 19 that have moved interstate and moved away from home. So try and mentor them and build them into leaders and help them both on and off the field. It's not just on-field stuff, or it's not just, sports stuff. It's to help them with life off the field as well, which can be challenging. So I suppose, from a leadership point of view, I've learned a lot over the years. I suppose the biggest thing I find is that you're able to have very honest and challenging conversations, whether it's with the coach or with your teammates. But they're done in a very respectful manner, or in a very respectful manner, and that you can have constructive feedback, and that can work both ways. So I suppose coming over here, leadership is a lot different, and I've learned a lot, and I really enjoy mentoring the younger girls in our team and help them improve, as I said, both on and off the field, and off field is as important as it is on field.
Eimear, when you're in the Olympic final and you're in the boat, I believe you're the race strategist. So were you the vocal person? Were you the person giving orders in that pressurized situation?
Yeah, I am. So, I'm sitting 2 seats in the back, so people can hear me the best. So that's kind of how I got that position. And so when we're in the race, we kind of have set calls, to be fair, before we go out. So we discuss it as a team. It's kind of pre-decided, but we know I have to kind of keep my eye out of the boat. And if another country's pushing up on us or anything like that, or I feel like we need to make that push a little bit early, then it's up to me then to call it. And everyone else, there isn't really any time, and everything has to be done completely synchronized. So going back to that trust, they 100% have to trust me and just go with exactly what I say. There's no time to discuss it. But so we've our predetermined strategy, and I'm the one who calls it and says when and where we do it.
So were there inspirational remarks that you were making in that final that you can repeat on live radio?
Just calling out random quotes and Pinterest boards and things like that. But no, you don't really have a lot of breath, to be honest. You're very out of breath. So usually I try to keep it down to like one word or set phrases, and we all know exactly what that means instinctively enough. But I know, in the last 600 meters of the race, we were coming in fourth, and usually we sprint around 300 meters to go, which is under a minute usually, and 600 meters would be about 2 minutes. And I kind of knew like there was a bit of a now or never moment if we were going to pass GB and try and get into a medal position. So I think about a lot earlier than everyone expected, I started calling for us to wind and kind of go into that final sprint. And thank God we didn't die before the line, because that would have been completely on me if we had. But it paid off in the end.
Talk to us about the day, because it was a strange environment with COVID, that your family couldn't be there. They were obviously back in this side of the world. It was an unusual winning performance, because it was a winning performance because you're an Olympic bronze medalist. How was it to feel that you've crossed the line and it's not the normal situation?
It was definitely a weird one. Like crossing the line, obviously we're so ecstatic and a bit of disbelief. I think I counted the number of boats behind me about 3 or 4 times just to make sure that we were in medal position. I think though the last 2 years kind of with COVID, we were quite away from our family a lot, and we really did have to rely on each other. Not just the 4 of us, but even with like the men's lightweight double and the women's pair, all of us as a team, we kind of became our own tight-knit family because we couldn't be going home. There was too much risk. We couldn't be seeing other friends. Like we were one big bubble. And because of that, we really had to like step in as that role as like a sisters basically for each other. So in a way, it wasn't the weirdest thing ever because at least we had like each other all around us. Like the men's lightweight double was there standing for us, the men's heavyweight double as well. Everyone was there, and at least we had like that kind of family feeling amongst each other. And then obviously straight away my phone was blowing up from my mum trying to talk to me straight away. So I think, yeah, then when I was talking to my mum, it was quite sad not having her there and not my dad, obviously, and my sisters as well, for them to be there for that moment. But
they an Island Bridge, I think, was it? Were they watching Island Bridge?
Yeah, they were. There's my old club when I was junior commercial. They had a bit of a watching kind of show because I think it was like 2 a.m. That the race was on. So yeah, they were all there with all my like old club members and old coaches and things like that. So in a way, I think they had a really nice experience as well. Even though obviously I think they'd booked, even before I qualified, they'd booked like accommodation and everything in Tokyo, like pre-COVID. Until obviously they had to try and get a refund for that. But like they went to Rio with my sister and they did have that kind of Olympic experience. So I think it was kind of nice for them to see the community side of it when they were at home. Like they had banners. My neighbors like pulled out the works really. They really outdid themselves. They had banners with my face on it, like all up and down the road. They had like people were making t-shirts, everything. And I think it was really nice for them to see that side of it. Because when they were in Rio, obviously they didn't see how much the community was behind Claire, and I think it was nice for them to have that side then to see just the backing and how like what it did to so many people in the community. I think it was nice.
Absolutely. Chloe, for the Hockey World Cup in 2018, was everybody over with you in London? It just seemed to completely steamroll this journey to the extent where the whole nation then was transfixed by it.
Yeah, my family, there was a huge amount of Irish support actually at that World Cup, and it certainly increased as the tournament went on, and it felt like we were at home. It was just incredible. And then the contrast to Tokyo, as Eimear was saying, when you couldn't have anyone there, it definitely has an impact, and it's
negatively.
Well, I suppose you don't have the distractions, but at the same time, you don't have the energy to feed off if maybe there's a lull in the game, or you're feeling particularly exhausted. Conditions were horrendous in Tokyo. They were so grueling, and going into the second half or the fourth quarter, you could feel it in your legs and everything else. And if the crowd's there shouting for you, or your family, or whatever it is, it does give you energy, and it does put a pep in your step to push on. And not having that was tough, because again, you had to do it to each other. You had to rely on each other, and everybody's probably just as exhausted. So it would have been great to have them there, but at the same time, we were just grateful to be able to go. So, but yeah, the World Cup in London was more of a party for them. I think they were wrecked by the time they were heading home after the 2 weeks.
Did it take you by surprise what happened in London?
From a performance point of view, no, but from the external point of view, yes. I never expected, the country, I suppose, to be watching a hockey match and fully supporting, getting behind them and stuff. So that was incredible. But the performance, we always knew we had it in us, and it was a lot of years training and closing the gap on those teams when we had missed out on qualification before. So it wasn't really a surprise to us, I suppose. Getting to a World Cup final, that was probably, that part was probably a little bit of a surprise, but we knew we could take some big scalps in that tournament and put it up to the best.
Cora, when you look back in your 23-year career in sport, at the top level. What stands out for you? What's the thing you're happiest with or most proud of? Was it the 2003 final when you lobbed the ball into the square and Diane O'Hara put it in, or was it the All-Stars, or was it coming back from serious injury, or is it becoming a professional down in Australia?
Yes, it's a good question. I suppose it's very hard to probably pick out a moment. I suppose the longevity of a career is probably one of the things. But I suppose for me, when you get older, and obviously we're there to win and compete, and that'll never go away. You want to, no matter what sport I play, you want to go out and win. But for me, I suppose it's the relationships and the people that you meet along the way and build. And I've been lucky enough to be involved in probably a number of different sports, in GAA and AFL and rugby and soccer, and the people that I've met along the way and connected with, whether that's teammates or coaches or whoever it might be, physios or medical teams, that to me is the most important side of sport. We talk about memories in sport, and that's what you look back at. You won't, you look back at the medals and what you'd won. I probably couldn't tell you where any of my All-Ireland medals are for club or county. So to me, it's the connections that you make and the friends that you make. And I'm lucky enough now that I have that here in Australia and I have it at home in Ireland. I've worked with some amazing coaches. I've played with some amazing sports people, and even here in Australia, playing with Breed Stack. She was an enemy of mine for years, and we, not that we didn't like each other, but, we marked each other for probably over a 10-year period, and to be now very close friends with her and her husband and her young child. It's certainly the relationships that you build with people and the memories that you create. That's what sport is all about.
We're speaking to Cora Staunton, Eimear Lambe and Chloe Watkins about inspirational Irish sportswomen ahead of International Women's Day on Tuesday. Advice, because when I listen to all three of you and I look at your careers, I think of composure. So whether that's shootouts, Chloe, in hockey, or if it's knowing how to time a race in rowing, Eimear, or if it's executing a kick, Cora. Eimear, when it comes to composure and delivering on the big stage, is it all about prep?
Yeah, I think a big part of it, to be honest, is routine. I know coming up to a race, we'd do kind of race pieces and stuff maybe the week before, and we try to do it exactly like we would on race day, down to kind of having our bags packed the night before, having whatever drinks we'll drink before it, have our food ready for afterwards, do our race warm-up the exact way we'll do it. We'll do our race warm-up about 150 times, I'd say, before we actually go to compete. So that way, when we go on the water, we're just doing something that's just mechanical then at that point, and there's not that much to think about. You're just doing exactly your routine, exactly as you've done it before. And there's something quite, I think, calming or relaxing about that, because you just sit into it and you don't have to think. I think, a big part of that composure is just kind of backing yourself, knowing it's something you've done before. And what we always try to do is we try to either not think at all, or just try to think of like maybe one technical thing that we're trying to change or trying to improve. And just having like one focus to kind of keep your mind centered and not let you lose the run of yourself of kind of thinking what happens if this happens, or what will I do now. You just have one focus, keep your mind kind of calm, and really sit into a routine.
Would you agree, Chloe? You've executed big plays and big matches. Has it been about the process for you?
It is certainly about the preparation. And practice, and just really refining what you're doing, or seeing what's maybe going wrong, or that kind of thing. But then the mental side of it, certainly for penalties, because the keeper is brought into it a bit more with hockey shootouts, so you have to be thinking. So I think it's being able to block all the distractions out and just focus on what you're doing and what you have to, what you want to achieve with the goalie, and just completely ignoring anything else that's going on around you. And that's the hardest part about it. It's trying to keep your emotions in check when it's a highly emotional game and there's highs and lows, and you really want to win it more than anything. So that's definitely the hardest part. It's just blocking out the distractions, whatever's happening around the pitch, whatever's happening with the other penalties, absolutely everything to keep your heart rate down, to keep your mind completely focused on just you taking the penalty. And then when you're kind of convinced that it's a little bit like fake it till you make it, it is just having the confidence, being completely just knowing you're gonna do it. And at the end of the day, it's a penalty. You can just say, I've done this 1,000 times in training. I know I can just put this ball in the back of the net. And it's really, about just concentrating on what you're doing.
Cora, you're in Australia speaking to us at the moment, and it's very sad in Australia in the last couple of days because Shane Warne has passed away, and he had that genius about him, but also he had a lot of ingenious method around how he was going to execute a delivery and get a batsman out. And I say for you as well, over the years when you're kicking points in Gaelic football or also in Aussie rules, it's just about seeing it, and the visualisation I think is quite important.
Yeah, it surely is. It's been very tragic here, obviously, in the last not even 24 hours. Hearing of his passing, it's massive news, obviously, here. He was a superstar, Shane Warne. So, yeah, it's been all over the news. But, yeah, for me, it's the same as Chloe and Eimear. It's routine, it's practice. If I'm taking a free kick in Croke Park, or even here in any of the stadiums in Australia, if I'm taking a set shot, it's all about routine. The more I practice, the more comfortable I am in what I do. So yeah, for me it's all about preparation. You have to visualize it, but what I look at is, if I'm taking a free in Croke Park, it's the exact same thing as me taking a free at home in Carnacon. The more I do it, the more at ease I am. So yeah, it's all about routine and practice. It's a cliche, but the harder you train, the more that you'll be rewarded. So it's certainly all about that. So I do think there's a mental side of it and all that. But yeah, once I have all my work done, all my training done, then I'm fully comfortable that things will go all right.
Eimear, your advice you would have to young girls looking to get involved in sport, or perhaps those who are unsure and maybe thinking of dropping out?
I think for those looking to get involved in sport, I think the most important thing when you're younger is to try them all and try every sport you can think of, even the most random ones, because I think it's very easy when you're younger to go into your designated school sports of like basketball, hockey, and maybe they don't suit you or they're not for you, and then you have it in your head then that sport is just not your thing or not for you, when I think there's just so much variety in sport that there really is something out there for everyone if you just really take the time to try as much random, quirky sports, niche sports, anything that you can think of to kind of find your place. For those thinking of quitting sport, because I know there's such a pressure, especially in schools, kind of needing to step back on sport and focus on your academics, especially coming up to exams. I think I'd definitely encourage them not to be honest. I'd tell them that take the steps back when you need to come up to exams and things like that. But if there's any way, even if you're only training a couple of days a week or maybe just doing the odd thing on the weekend, it's just so good to keep in sport, not even to get to a high performance level or anything like that. It's just the community that sport brings you, and just to have that's something that you can carry your whole way through your life into your adult life if you do have a sport or something that you enjoy. So yeah, definitely try every sport that you can and keep up any sport that you do find enjoyment in.
And Chloe Watkins, any advice you'd have to a young girl maybe listening today who's looking to be an Olympian or a Hockey World Cup silver medalist or an All-Star?
I think for me it's about enjoying it, and it comes down to even at the highest level. But if you don't enjoy something and really have fun with it, it's difficult to sustain. So as Eimear said, there's so much variety out there, and girls can kind of get pigeonholed quite quickly, I think, especially at a younger age. Oh, you're not sporty, but find something. There's something for everybody. And again, it's that exposure piece that we talked about earlier. The more people can see of every single sport that's out there, they'll get inspired and they might get into it. And you'll find something you enjoy, and when you enjoy it, you're going to want to do it all the time. You're going to want to keep it up, and it's going to be something that you'll get a lot of benefit from. So I think that the enjoyment piece is huge.
And for you, Cora, your advice?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as both girls have said there. Yeah, it's to find a sport, and that can be the most difficult thing. And I suppose in Ireland, in team sport in particular, you're always kind of drawn to the same three in rugby, soccer, and GAAs. But there's so many other different sports out there. Keep trying it until you find one. And I suppose for young girls as well, that sport doesn't always have to be at a high level and really high competition. That's, for a certain group of people. It's not for everyone, but sport can be just there where you're playing down at your local, GA pitch, soccer pitch, whatever it might be. I know even in Gaelic, they have Gaelic mothers for others. It doesn't have to be always about competition and at a high level. So it's there, as I said from earlier, to go out and have, your social groups and all things like that. It just teaches you so much. The things that you learn from sport, you really cannot learn, at home or in school or, anywhere else. And that's certainly with the case in team sport. So yeah, I'd encourage them obviously to find something that they enjoy and go out and among their friends. And for girls, we talked about dropout, which is a huge problem. The biggest example I can give is that I've spoken to many girls that I trained over the years, and they come back to you maybe after giving it up at that typical age of 14, 15, 16, and they'll come back involved maybe when they're in their early 20s again, wondering why they ever gave up, because they love it so much. And it could be at a very low standard, but they just want to get back involved and being involved in team sport. And I think that's hugely important, that while that age is hard, just keep going, find something that you really like. And as I said, it's really important that it doesn't always have to be at an elite standard. It's not for everyone, but certainly do it from a social point of view as well, because it has huge benefits.
Absolutely. And just before we go, we had a fantastic competition a little earlier at the beginning of the panel. We asked you to name this mystery voice.
Didn't lose me focus or me control. The rest is history.
That was, of course, the Olympic champion boxer Kelly Harrington. And congratulations to Belinda Smith-Andrade, County Louth, who answered that correctly. Belinda, you're the winner of the €1,000 One for All voucher with Thanks to One Post, as well as a €100 Irish Women in Sports stamp booklet. We'll get in touch with you after the show. Congratulations again. Just in terms of finishing up, Cora Staunton, what's next? Are you going to keep on playing into your 40s? Are you going to retire at some stage after your incredible career with as in Gaelic football and Aussie rules? What's next for you, Cora?
That's the $1 million question they're all asking me over here. I'm not very good at giving them an answer. No, I'll certainly play out next week. Spend a couple of weeks here before I head home, probably sometime in April. And I'm sure I'll be dragged back to club football at home in Carnacon. But I just like to give myself some space and freedom to make a decision. It's very hard to make it when you're in an environment over here. So that'll be probably made sometime in the next couple of months. But for now, it's just focus on next week and try and get end the season on a high.
Chloe, the World Cup this year, I believe you've got the Netherlands, Germany and Chile in your group. So that's the big thing.
Yeah, it's a very tough group, and it's going to take a big effort. But there's some young talent coming through the squad, and that brings energy as well. So it's an exciting time, and it's a big challenge. So that's what you want. You want to be playing in the big stage against the best teams in the world. So you can't complain about it. No, the best of luck with it. And we'll obviously be talking about it later on in the year. And for you, Eimear, is it just a case of Paris now? Building for Paris?
Yeah, I suppose it is. We've Europeans in August and then World Championships then in end of September. So it's quite late this season. But yeah, so that's the short-term goals at the moment. And then hopefully you'll see how the road to Paris goes from there.
Okay, Eimear Lambe, Cora Staunton, Chloe Watkins, thanks so much for giving us your time and Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk on the panel. To celebrate International Women's Day in association with An Post, celebrating Irish women's sports stars. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks, and chat soon.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, this is Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. We're updating with the Premier League team news, telling you that Leeds have lost again, 1-0 to Leicester. And also we're going to bring you my racing moment after this break.
Off the Ball on News Talk.